Chapter 441, Flood. Yi Shu's words gave Lulan some ideas about building a team. Developing one's own style would take a while, so his current priority was still advertising and gaining popularity. Yi Shu didn't know if Lulan did this himself or if he knew someone who specialized at advertising. In any case, he had done an exceptional job. His team was gaining popularity from all kinds of information being spread, whether they were true or false. No matter who had done the job, that person had proven himself to be a master at advertising online. The clubs became aware of this very quickly. After making a big entrance that grabbed everyone's attention, the team was steadily gaining popularity. This team, which was not even in the alliance yet, already had more attention from the players than some of the lower-tier teams. This team definitely wasn't inexperienced. Once they came to such a conclusion, they immediately began to be looked down on. With Yi Chu's help, even the most inexperienced team would be experienced. Yi Chu. He was the source of all their problems. Even back when he was in the alliance, he was the one of the biggest headaches for every team and every club. And he was still giving them trouble despite not being in the alliance anymore. The club's information webs were not as powerful as they believed. Due to this lack of information and that perfect advertising, the clubs all believed that their sudden rise to fame was because of Yi Chu. After all, Yi Chu was extremely familiar with how the alliance worked. The clubs were all guessing Yi Chu's position in the team. Was he the manager? Or the director? For less developed clubs, there were no such positions. This was especially true during the early stages of the alliance. Besides the owner, the only person who would have any real decision-making power was the team captain. As the alliance grew, organizations continuously developed and gradually, other positions began having executive powers such as the manager and the director. At this point, the team captain would still have some influence, but he or she would not be the one making final decisions anymore. The team captain's responsibilities was reduced to the team alone. With Yi Chu's knowledge and experience, Yi Chu could fill in for any of these positions and would be a very terrifying opponent. In fact, the clubs felt that Yi Chu being in one of these positions would be even more difficult to deal with than him competing directly in the matches. What trick hadn't Yi Chu seen in the pro scene? What strategies would work on him? He had been there since the creation of the alliance. Facing such a formidable opponent, everyone immediately felt like they had a headache. Lulan maintained the steady growth in popularity and the clubs were unable to come up with a solution. It was the same in the game. They could do nothing but watch as Lord Grimm reached level 52. Yi Shu was still leveling up his character. To the clubs, this was a clear signal. This god wasn't satisfied with scheming behind the scenes. He wanted to step onto the stage with his Lord Grimm. He was already in the declining years for a pro player. Where did he get all of that motivation and willpower from? Lord Grimm's identity was no secret to the clubs. Consequently, it wasn't a secret to the pro players of these clubs either. Lord Grimm was a huge topic among them, especially in places where pro players gathered together. What does he want? A pro player yelled in one group chat, opening a new topic. Drag him out and ask. Is he still in this chat? Ah. Here he is. Someone sent a screenshot to prove Yi Shu was still in the group chat. What is he doing? Pretending to be dead? Yi Chu. Come out, come out, come out, come out, come out, come out. Who else but Huang Shaoshan would type out so many repeating words? Worshipping God, a few lower-leveled pro players greeted Huang Shaoshan. Who can see if he's invisible? The conversion had sped up the moment Huang Shaoshan showed up. Sister Su definitely has it. She's not online. Huang Shaoshan started to run the operation of dragging Yi Shu out. Who can see if Sister Su is invisible? Youngshu definitely can. Youngshu is online, someone shouted out happily. Who said my name? Chu Youngshu clearly set her name as a keyword, so she was successfully summoned the moment someone mentioned her. Is Su Mucheng online? Huang Shaoshan asked. Nope, Chu Youngshu replied. Don't lie to us. Actually, we're not looking for her. We just wanted to know how our friend Yi Chu is doing nowadays, Huang Shaoshan said. Why not try mentioning Yi Chu? Chu Yongshu suggested. At Yi Chu 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 at Yi Chu. See? Nothing happened, Huang Shaoshan answered. Try a different keyword. At one autumn leaf 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 at one autumn leaf. Should you still use one autumn leaf? Chu Yongshu wondered. The conversation quieted down a bit. Parting from one's own character was always a sad and painful thing. Yi Chu was no longer one autumn leaf. Everyone grieved for him when the topic was brought up. Who called me? In the end, it was Sun Shang who showed up. Everyone was speechless. As of this moment, the only ones sending messages were the god-level pro players. The other pros had all taken their seats and grabbed their popcorn as they watched the show unfold. I didn't call for you. I'm looking for Yi Chu. Huang Shaoshan quickly answered the question. Yi Chu? He's still in the group even though he's retired? Sushang was curious. Careful, Huang Shaoshan warned, the admin might kick you out. I've never seen the admin come on, Sushang retorted. Of course, the admin is also retired. Just like you said, he shouldn't be here, Huang Shaoshan explained. Try it, Lord Grimm. Chu Yongshu pulled everyone back to the original topic. Hey, who called me? Yi Shu immediately popped up. F***ck me. You were pretending to be dead. Shameless, Huang Shaoshan followed. Hi everyone. Long time no see, Yi Shu greeted everyone. Immediately, a huge wall of messages popped up, giving their respects to the god. F***ck me. There were so many pretending to be dead, Huang Shaoshan shouted. Okay, done greeting. Bye, Yi Shu spoke. You only said one sentence, Huang Shaoshan howled. I'm not you, Yi Shu began mocking him. The others all responded with an emoji of a person laughing hysterically while hammering the table. A long train of these emojis formed as a result of the fast typing speed of pro players. Zhou Zakai, what are you laughing at? Huang Shaoshan saw that even the leader of Samsara, who was known for his quiet personality, was in the train, laughing at him. Haha, Zhou Zakai laughed back. Hey, don't you dare run away, Huang Shaoshan was almost overwhelmed. After all, trying to make sure that Yi Shu didn't disappear while dealing with the train of mockery was no easy task, even for him. Here, Yi Shu replied. What have you been up to recently? Huang Shaoshan asked. Leveling up, Yi Shu replied. Another train of hysterical laughter started up. Everyone knew what Huang Shaoshan meant, but Yi Shu's answer wasn't wrong. It was a classical example of an irrelevant answer. Bastard. Who asked you about that? Huang Shaoshan cried. Then what did you want to ask? Yi Shu pretended to be confused. What are you trying to do by joining that heavenly justice? Huang Shaoshan asked again. Well, when you're playing Glory, joining a guild is a very normal thing to do, Yi Shu continued. Stop pretending to be stupid. Honestly, which one of you would take me in? If there is one, I'll go immediately. But the problem is that no one will, Yi Shu said. Come to our Blue Brook, Huang Shaoshan urged. Do your words count? No. This time, Yu Wenzhou answered the question. Because Huang Shaoshan had hesitated, the cripple had actually beaten him to the reply. Yi Shu sent an emoji of a person putting his head to the table and hitting the table as he laughed out loud. Fight me. One-on-one. Arena. I've been waiting for so long. Let's see if your unspecialized character is as strong as the rumors say. Huang Shaoshan immediately changed topic in a poor attempt to hide his shame. I'm only level 52. Don't you feel any shame? Yi Shu said. Fixed field, Huang Shaoshan proposed. Fixed field? What can you do there? Yi Shu asked. Fixed field destroyed any advantages in equipment and was a huge disadvantage for a god-level account like Huang Shaoshan's troubling reign. A god-level character's power came from their equipment advantage. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, Huang Shaoshan taunted. Come, Yi Shu replied. A train of shocked emojis followed his reply. No one had thought that the two would actually start a match. Within a minute, the global chat in heavenly domain exploded. Oh my god. Troubling rain. At Redwoods Road. Swaksar spotted in the entresol. Cloud piercer. Windy rain. WTF. Is this the end of the world? Are the gods coming to save us? Even though everyone had logged in invisible mode, when their characters stood in the crowded maps, the ID above their heads screamed for attention. Their names were shouted out and all 10 global chats went in a frenzy. That didn't mark the end of this flood of pro players. Other than a bunch of famous god-level characters, there were also many lesser-known pro players who logged in. No pro player escaped the watchful eyes of the players. So many fake corpses. I hate you all. Shameless, Huang Shaoshan shouted again in the group chat. We're just here to watch. Which room? Everyone ignored Huang Shaoshan's complaints and started running a new train of questions that demanded the room number. Which room? Even Huang Shaoshan found himself in the train. Fixed field 4. Room 2164. The password and the room number are the same. Yishu finally answered the question. In the arena, room 2164 of Fixed Field 4, Yishu was doing what Lulan Slash had requested and was giving Lulan Slash's group a few tips. They had just finished a match and Yishu telling Little Bei of some problems he could work on. Lulan Slash was down in the ring, waiting patiently for Yishu to finish. Suddenly, a character entered. Lulan Slash looked at the ID, and was shocked to find that it did not belong to anyone in his group. Surprised, he exclaimed, I set up a password. How? How? It was then Lulan Slash saw the ID of the intruder clearly. Troubling rain? Lulan Slash carefully checked the ID again and made sure that there was no mistake. There was no random letter or symbol in the name. This ID belonged to none other than the ace of Team Blue Rain, the Sword Saint Troubling Rain. Then Lulan Slash heard the person across him start to yell, Who is this? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? In terms of speaking habits, the pro player that people were most familiar with was none other than Huang Shaoshan. Why? Because he always talked the most in the alliance. One important aspect of his speaking style was that he often repeated a single phrase over and over again. Is that actually Troubling Rain? Is he really Huang Shaoshan? Hurry up and start, Yishu's Lord Grim announced in the public chat. Lulan Slash was at a loss, but obeyed and the match began. What are you doing? Huang Shaoshan shouted. At the same time, the other members in Lulan Slash's group were all shocked. A crowd had suddenly appeared like a storm. Famous characters had completely surrounded them. No way. Are they here to kill us? Xiao Bei gasped in astonishment. Chapter 442, Poor Lulan Slash. Xiao Bei and the others, who were standing outside of the stage, could feel nothing but shock as they watched a flood of names pour in. The room had a password. Even though the password was simply the room number, the password shouldn't have been cracked by that many people all at once. Even if that had somehow happened, why were they here? Lulan Slash's group had been aiming to be pros from the start, unlike Tang Ru or Steamed Bun Invasion, so they recognized these names. Some of the names weren't as famous as those gods, but they still knew these seniors. The entire alliance only had 200 players in total, so it wasn't hard to remember them all. But what really stunned Lulan Slash's group was that of these 200 pro players, dozens of them had joined their room in an instant. They tried to look for a name that they didn't recognize, but were unable to find one. As for these pro players, the QQ group chat had brought everyone together, but there had never been a time where all of them had gathered together at one spot. For a moment, they all felt like it was a new experience and the crowd buzzed with excitement as everyone greeted each other. Why are you still here? Tyrannese Zhang Jinji asked Yishu when he saw Lord Grim on the list of names. Shouldn't you be sleeping? Yishu asked back. They even knew of each other's living habits as a result of being rivals for many years. There's still 4 more minutes, Zhang Jinji replied. Are you going to change your mind to see the match? Yishu was curious. No. What a pity, Yishu sighed. Other people also realized that Troubling Rain was already in the ring, but the one who stood in front of him wasn't Lord Grimm. They were a bit puzzled when they suddenly recognized Huang Shaoshan's opponent. Lulan Slash? Isn't he that Lulan Slash? The people in the crowd began whispering to one another. Recently, in Glory, there were two important names, Lord Grimm and Lulan Slash. Both of them were still only in-game characters. However, based on Glory's popular search results these past few days, these two names had been searched even more than of some of the God-level players and characters. Who in the Glory community didn't know that Lulan Slash was creating a team? The match had already started, but neither side had moved yet. Lulan Slash had blanked out in shock from seeing the flood of pro players, while Huang Shaoshan was puzzled just like everyone else in the crowd. He was here for Lord Grimm, so why was there a berserker standing in front of him? Yi Chu. You liar, Huang Shaoshan messaged in the group chat. Shaoshan, go up. Test him out, the crowd shouted. Who is he? Who is he? Huang Shaoshan asked. You've never heard of Lulan Slash, someone asked. Really? Huang Shaoshan cut back to game. His opponent's ID could be seen quite clearly. It was just that when Huang Shaoshan entered the ring earlier, he had only glanced at the name. Upon seeing that it was not the expected Lord Grimm, he had immediately jumped back to the group chat to vent his anger. His mind hadn't registered the name, Lulan Slash. Now that he looked back more carefully, Huang Shaoshan immediately recognized his opponent. Hey, what's the meaning of this? Huang Shaoshan shouted. Lulan Slash had no idea how to respond. The crowd of pro players watching made him very nervous. His usual agile hands had turned stiff. Why aren't you talking? AFK? If you're AFK, how'd you start the match? Is it automatic? Huang Shaoshan continued to chatter. I'm still here, Lulan Slash muttered weakly. Start? Huang Shaoshan said. Start? Lulan Slash took a deep breath, trying to calm himself down, but to no avail. He always subconsciously shifted his gaze to the crowd. There, he could see Brilliant Edge, the character of Team Blue Rain's Yu Feng. He was the all-star berserker and Lulan Slash's favorite pro player. Let's go. Here I come. Huang Shaoshan didn't care if Lulan Slash was prepared or not. After a shout, he suddenly moved. With a shadow step, Troubling Rain blurred into 6 figures, each with a blade aimed at Lulan Slash. Shadow Step was undoubtedly a very troublesome skill, and it was even more so when used by a top-tier blade master like Huang Shaoshan. But the real headache was still Huang Shaoshan's mouth. Huang Shaoshan never stopped moving his mouth as the 6 shadows rushed towards Lulan Slash. I heard that you're building a new team. That's pretty amazing, you know? Is that the account you'll be using? Ah, sword point. Luckily, this the fixed field. Otherwise, it'd be very scary. When the first syllable slipped out from Huang Shaoshan's mouth, 6 shadows had blurred into existence. When the last syllable came out, the 6 shadows had surrounded Lulan Slash from 6 different directions. Lulan Slash wasn't even able to gather his thoughts together in time, but as an experienced player, he was still able to react out of instinct. He immediately jumped up and crashed down with a falling light blade. Ah, how quick. This is hard to dodge. How unlucky, Huang Shaoshan continued to blabber. It looked as if he really wasn't going to be able to dodge. The shadows were hit by the shockwave from falling light blade. However, the shockwave only passed through them, making the shadows flicker for a moment. All of the ones hit were shadows, so where was the real one? Lulan Slash was completely surrounded. If all of the shadows in view were fake, then where was the real body? He didn't have enough time to differentiate them apart. At this moment, he could only rely on his experience. Lulan Slash immediately jumped forward. He believed that the real one must have circled around behind him. He jumped up and turned 180 degrees in midair, but then a sword light suddenly flashed in front of him. Too fast. Lulan Slash's original plan was jump forward, turn around, and then counterattack with a collapsing mountain. He didn't think that his opponent's attack would come so quickly. Collapsing mountain was too slow and would definitely be interrupted. Lulan Slash immediately guarded and his sword swung up. A metallic ring resonated as the attack was deflected. You blocked it? You really do have some skill. But I haven't gone all out yet. "Brother, be careful," Huang Shaotian continued to chatter. His talking never interfered with his attacks. When he gave the warning, he had already begun moving with a triple slash and quickly arrived in front of Lulan slash. Lulan slash rolled away, just barely dodging the attack. When he stood up, his opponent was nowhere in sight. "On top of your head," Lulan slash heard the warning and looked up, but the tip of his opponent's sword had already stabbed through his head. Lulan slash was already crying inside. It hadn't been a warning. It was just Huang Shaotian narrating his moves. Huang Shaotian was an expert at seizing opportunities. His offense wouldn't simply end with just that single attack, as an unceasing torrent of skills followed. Lulan slash watched anxiously as the number of combos leapt up. But the more anxious he was, the harder it would be to find the earthim. In Glory, combos weren't guaranteed. They depended entirely on the player's skill. Thus, in theory, there was no such thing as an unbreakable combo. In that moment, Lulan slash could see each attack clearly and knew how to counter each attack. However, his hands couldn't follow his thoughts. To make matters worse, Huang Shaotian was shouting out the names of every skill he used. The noisiness was disrupting his thoughts and making him feel dizzy. After a while, Lulan slash began unconsciously thinking of counters for each skill Huang Shaotian named. When a huge mistake suddenly happened, Lulan slash realized that the skill names Huang Shaotian shouted out weren't in the same rhythm as his actions. Sometimes, the skill name he yelled out didn't even match up with the actual skill he performed. What he was saying and what he was doing were two completely unrelated matters. "Shaotian, slow down. Don't be such a bully," someone in the crowd typed. "Shaotian, why are you so quiet today? Where are your speech bubbles?" another person shouted. "This is the in-game arena. The room shouldn't be muted, right?" someone pointed out. As a result, someone checked the settings in this room. The person came back with a solemn news for everyone: the room isn't muted. Poor guy, everyone offered their grievances to Lulan slash. Because of how the match was progressing, no one really cared about the results of the match. The reason was that Huang Shaotian had taken control of the match from the very start, so they weren't able to what type of skill Lulan slash possessed. Of course, his first few responses weren't bad, but if he couldn't even do that, then he wouldn't have any chance in the Pro Alliance. In comparison, Xiao Bei and the others were all sweating like mad. Lulan slash was the strongest among them, but against Huang Shaotian, it looked as if he couldn't even find which direction he was facing. Against a god, they no longer had any dreams of beating him, but they at least hoped they could put up a fight and not just get tossed around like three-legged cats. But watching this match, it looked like they really were just three-legged cats. They had a long way to go. Thinking about this, they all felt a bit disheartened. Suddenly, the clear sound of a dragon's howl thundered across the stadium. A beautiful circle of swords spread out from around, troubling rain as Lulan slash flew through the air. "Chance," Lulan slash's friends shouted in their minds. The attack had blown Lulan slash too far away and was an opportunity for him to steady himself. Lulan slash succeeded. He stabilized his position and camera. However, they were unable to celebrate because they discovered that Huang Shaotian's troubling rain hadn't chased after him to follow up. This meant that his mistake was an act of mercy. He had intentionally let Lulan slash get away. "Any thoughts, brother?" Huang Shaotian asked. "You're so noisy." It wasn't that Lulan slash had no respect for the god. He was just feeling too unhappy not to spit it out, especially when he was directly asked to say his feelings. F***ck, did Yi Chu throw you here for me to completely crush your confidence? Are you two even friends? Huang Shaotian said. Lulan slash's heart tightened. Lord Grimm really was Yi Chu. Even though he had already been convinced, hearing a god say it eliminated any remaining doubts. The appearance of this crowd of pro players must have had something to do with Yi Chu. What exactly did Yi Chu want to accomplish? Chapter 443, A Berserk 20 seconds. Huang Shaotian was already about to slice him to death, but Lulan slash was still unable to free himself from the shock of seeing so many people watching him. During the match, he was unable to focus despite his constant self-reminders. These thoughts couldn't be controlled and he couldn't help but keep the crowd in mind. What are all these people here for? Finally, in the end, Lulan Slash was able to focus his thoughts. God, what are you doing? Lulan Slash didn't think about it for himself and directly asked Lord Grimm. You're not busy? You still have the time to chat with me, Yi Shu replied. Ah. It's a rare opportunity. Don't waste it, Yi Shu said. Ah. You found these guys for us? Lulan Slash felt moved. No, Yi Shu explained the misunderstanding. Huang Shaoshan came over to look for me. The others weren't busy and ran over to watch. I saw a rare opportunity and let you guys have it. Can we fight all of them? Even though the opportunity had been made in passing, Lulan Slash was still very moved. That depends on whether they're willing or not. Give a good performance, Yi Shu replied. A good performance? Lulan Slash felt upset. He only had, of his health left and hadn't been able to give Huang Shaoshan's troubling rain any significant damage ever since the start of the match. Such a poor performance made him look like a complete noob. Would all of the momentum he had gained from his advertising disappear just like this? Why aren't you talking? What are you doing just standing there doing nothing? You're not my opponent. Give me Yi Chu, Huang Shaoshan blabbered. Once the crowd realized that Huang Shaoshan's opponent was someone to be noted, the pro players began discussing amongst themselves. The players they discussed with were from the same team, of course. How is this berserker? In Team Blue Rain's group, Captain Yu Wenzhou asked the all-star berserker Yu Feng. He wasn't able to do anything. As soon as the match started, Huang Shaoshan suppressed him. His awareness isn't bad though. He had the right idea in a lot of places, but he just wasn't able to grasp the rhythm, Yu Feng replied. Yes. A common weakness among rookies. Moreover, the current environment is only making it worse for him, Yu Wenzhou said. Let alone Lulan Slash, even these gods had never been in such an environment before. What do you think? On Team Tyranny's side, Han Wenking had been quietly watching up until the two sides stopped. Only now did he ask his vice-captain Zhang Jinji's opinion. It's only been 2 minutes, Zhang Jinji said. His performance is even worse than most rookies. The opponent's circumstances should be considered, Han Wenking said. True, and the room isn't muted either, Zhang Jinji said. On Team Tiny Herb's side, Wang Jiaxi thought about it alone. He didn't have anyone to discuss his thoughts with. Each of the 20 teams had a few players there and were all discussing amongst themselves while the two weren't fighting. Little Bei and the others were feeling somewhat uneasy. After another half a year, they would be a part of the pro scene, but now that they were mingled in with them, they suddenly felt like they were a bunch of children in a group of adults. They couldn't help but feel weak and helpless. Lulan Slash's performance didn't help their morale either. As time passed, they felt more and more cornered. I'm going to kill you now and then have Yi Chu come up. Don't be shameless, Huang Shaoshan made a proposal to Lulan Slash. He was here to witness an unspecialized character. He had only patiently fought a match because he realized that his opponent was Lulan Slash. But now that the fight had reached this stage, Huang Shaoshan felt that it was enough. He didn't want to be bothered with him anymore. Lulan Slash couldn't refuse him, so he replied with an okay. Then he raised his greatsword and his character began to shake with rage. He had used the berserker skill in rage and entered a berserk mode. The berserk mode lasted 20 seconds. His strength, attack speed, and movement speed would be greatly increased, but his defense and resistance would be decreased. In normal circumstances, against a stronger opponent, berserkers would use this skill with caution. However, Lulan Slash only had 1/5 of his health left. He was clearly planning on risking everything for this one move. Whoa! You're putting everything on the line. How fierce! Huang Shaoshan obviously recognized this skill. He mumbled how fierce his opponent was, but he didn't say that he was going to run from the fight. Roar! After a berserker turned enraged, the aura around him would thicken. It looked as if the air around him had transformed into a dense mist of blood. Lulan Slash leapt into the air and pounced forward with a collapsing mountain. This skill was extremely tyrannical, and in a berserk state, his skill would have super armor. You could attack to deal damage, but your attacks wouldn't interrupt him. Huang Shaoshan naturally wouldn't receive the attack directly and jumped back gently. When the collapsing mountain crashed to the ground, a shockwave rippled out. Huang Shaoshan's jump had dodged the shockwave with pinpoint accuracy. Lulan slash got up and quickly followed with a backward slash. The heavy sound produced by a berserker's sword splitting the air differed from the crisp, clear sound produced by a blade master's. Under normal circumstances, such a combo would be easy for Huang Shaoshan to dodge, but with Lulan Slash's berserk state, his attack speed was multiplied. His attack might have hit nothing but air before, but his increased attack speed made up for it now. Huang Shaoshan was unable to use a skill in time to interrupt the backward slash and could only choose to retreat. Gong. Another loud sound reverberated. Lulan Slash grasped his greatsword with two hands and smashed the ground with an earth-shattering slash. The Enrage skill not only directly increased stats, but it also had another function. In a berserk state, numerous skills had different effects than when used normally. Collapsing Mountain had super armor. Backward slash would have a longer range. Earth-shattering slash launched quicker. The instant his sword touched the ground, multiple cracks in the ground quickly formed. Huang Shaoshan didn't have any time to do any careful thinking and hastily jumped again, just barely dodging the earth-shattering slash. But following afterwards, Lulan Slash's left hand swiped across sword point and a blood arrow shot out. Berserker skill, Blood Sword. According to Glory's class description, berserkers were bloodthirsty warriors and sacrificed everything for victory. Using their own blood to make their moves stronger was nothing to them. Blood Sword came out quickly in an artful angle and was extremely difficult to guard against, let alone in this type of situation. Huang Shaoshan's reaction speed truly was exceptional. The instant he jumped, he raised his sword up and blocked the incoming Blood Sword. Under such circumstances, he had actually been able to successfully complete a guard. Lulan Slash let out a gasp of admiration. Even with all that he did, he had still been unable to hit his opponent. He could only admit that his opponent was far more capable than him. His little tricks didn't work on his opponent. Lulan Slash rushed forward and attacked again twice. The Blood Sword had forced Huang Shaoshan to act, and this time he was unable to adjust in time. The two attacks connected. However, these two attacks were like little presents and wouldn't impact the overall situation in any significant way. After these two attacks hit, Huang Shaoshan was able to easily escape from any further pressure and was even able to make a counterattack. Even though Lulan Slash was able to avoid it, his berserk state had ended and he had returned to his normal state. Oh, that wasn't bad. Just when Lulan Slash was feeling sad, the watching pro players gave a round of praise. The Berserker's Enrage skill only created 20 seconds of the berserk state. Defeating the opponent in these 20 seconds obviously wasn't possible. The most optimal result would be to pressure the opponent, seize the initiative, and bring the opponent into one's own tempo during those 20 seconds. Lulan Slash wasn't able to obtain the most optimal result, but his opponent was Huang Shaoshan, after all. Let alone a rookie like him, no berserker in the alliance would be able to completely suppress Huang Shaoshan during those 20 seconds. Against a god-level player, pressuring the opponent and dealing some damage, while not receiving any, was already quite a good result. Lulan Slash had undoubtedly accomplished this. Unfortunately, Lulan Slash had succeeded with an attack with only a fifth of his health left. With the difference in health and skill between the two, these two attacks wouldn't affect the overall situation. After turning enraged, you played quite well. What do you think? Aren't you sad that you only have 20 seconds? Ha 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 ha, I recommend that you don't run because you won't have any chance to wait for your skills to go off cooldown. During this time, I'll end you, Huang Shaoshan was talking to himself again. He had already began moving when he said, "What do you think?" When he said, "Don't run," he had already swung his sword 4 times. Lulan Slash hadn't intended to run away to stall for his cooldowns, but Huang Shaoshan chattered as if Lulan Slash was Gore Cross. Colliding Stab. Turn around heavy hit. Lulan Slash didn't run and instead, used low-leveled skills to stall. Without much health left and against a strong opponent, he didn't dare use any powerful skills because they were easier to interrupt. He had already put his feelings in order. He focused and thought about his actions carefully as he stalled against Huang Shaoshan. Huang Shaoshan wasn't wrong either. Lulan Slash wanted to wait for Enrage to come back off cooldown. But instead of running, he was stalling by defending against his opponent. Chapter 444, Round Robin. Lulan Slash. You can do it. Upon seeing Lulan Slash's revitalized performance, Little Bei and the others became all fired up. They jumped out of the corners and shouted wildly in the public channel, cheering for Lulan Slash. 20 seconds. 15 seconds. 10 seconds. Lulan Slash observed his opponent carefully, paying very close attention to the smallest of details. He fought extraordinarily well during this short amount of time and there were no mistakes. Every attack he made was just right. He neither get hit nor did step into Huang Shaoshan's traps. His only wish was for Enrage to come off cooldown. Other than troubling Rain's movements and the cooldown for Berserk, there was nothing else in his mind. Only 5 more seconds. In that moment, a spark of excitement ignited in Lulan Slash's heart. He had survived. He had actually survived this long without taking any damage. And my opponent is Huang Shaoshan. Lulan Slash felt quite proud of himself. If I can do it once, then I can do it twice. I have to value these 20 seconds of being in Berserk state. I'll have to be careful, just like before. If I continue to do this, maybe I can even win. Lulan Slash's confidence was reignited instantly. 5 seconds passed in the blink of an eye. Enrage's cooldown had come off. Lulan Slash knew he couldn't afford to be reckless. After a few more carefully played exchanges, Lulan Slash saw a chance and activated Enrage. The air around Lulan Slash shook. His character was engulfed in an eerie crimson light. Lulan Slash felt like he could feel the power and the promise of the skill. It was as if he could feel his boundless strength. In that moment, he felt as if he were invincible. With a turn of his camera, Lulan Slash was ready to unleash his planned attacks, when suddenly a storm of blades covered the sky in welcome. No words could describe Lulan Slash's emotions in that split second. The icy blade froze all of his boiling ambitions and recklessness faster than he had ever thought was possible. In that next moment, everything shattered into oblivion. Lulan Slash had lost. With the reduction in defense due to the Berserk state, Lulan Slash had no chance of withstanding such a powerful attack. He hadn't even lasted long enough to see the last strike. Huang Shaoshan didn't need to finish this formless phantom blade either. Right after the killing blow landed on Lulan Slash, Huang Shaoshan stopped the frozen sword in his hands with pinpoint precision. Ice Rain. Lulan Slash knew the name of troubling Ryan's silver weapon. Although the fixed field would balance their equipment stats, Lulan Slash could still see the extraordinary icy glare from the frozen blade as his character fell limply. Which did this glare belong to? The sword? The character wielding the sword? Or even further, like the one behind the screen? You're not bad, but I'm better. This final sentence was surprisingly short for Huang Shaoshan. There were actually no repeated words or phrases. Lulan Slash felt as if he had suddenly awoken from a dream. My opponent is Huang Shaoshan. Lulan Slash had the exact same thought just moments ago, when he was doing well. This thought granted him a lot of confidence and ambition. Now, after his dream had being choked into nothing, he had the exact same thoughts once again. My opponent is Huang Shaoshan, the most famous opportunist in the alliance. Lulan Slash was still too careless in the most critical moment. That chance that he took to use Berserk, was it really a chance for him? Apparently not. It was a trap through and through. In front of Huang Shaoshan, whenever a chance appears, one always has to consider the question, is this chance for me? Or is it a chance for him? Huang Shaoshan. How dominant. People yelled in the public chat. Because this wasn't an official competition, most people did not take sides. Aside from getting to know Lulan Slash, everyone was there just for fun. Upon seeing Huang Shaoshan win the match, the audience gladly sent their congratulations. Ha ha ha. It's nothing. Yi Chu. Where are you? Why aren't you down here yet? And this brother here, stop pretending to be a corpse. Hurry up and make room. Don't go and miss the next match. It will really help you improve. Ha ha ha, Huang Shaoshan replied energetically. Lulan Slash wasn't holding the space grudgingly. It was just that after he had lost, little Bei and the others sent messages in order to comfort him. He had been way too busy replying to the messages that he forgot to step out of the ring. When Huang Shaoxun started to taunt him, Lulan Slash immediately left the ring without making any objections. As a result, Lulan Slash stepped out and little Bei's homeward bound entered the ring. Battle mage? Huang Shaoxun was confused. Yi Chu? Why did you come with a battle mage? Who the H*LL wants to fight your battle mage? I wanna vomit just thinking about it. Get your unspecialized out. Unspecialized. Huang Shaoxun was mad. No, little Bei responded meekly, I'm not God Yi Chu. Then who are you? Huang Shaoxun was astonished. I'm with Heavenly Justice too, little Bei spoke. God D*MMIT, Huang Shaoxun's patience had finally met its end. He typed non-stop in the public chat, Yi Chu. Get down here. Why another Heavenly Justice player? Do you want the senior to kill them all one by one? There are thousands of them. When will it end? There were tons of emoji in the game too. All at once, another long train of laughing wildly emojis followed Huang Shaoxun's message. It's a round robin. Shaoxun, accept your fate. Yeah, this is an RPG after all. The final boss should only reveal itself when you've cleared all the levels. Good luck, Shaoxun. Everyone is watching. Try not to embarrass yourself. God Chu, how many levels are there? 5 or 6. Yi Chu replied calmly as if this situation had nothing to do with him. Isn't that too little? There are 10,000 players in Heavenly Justice. Even if it's 1%, there still should be 100 levels. Yeah, 100 levels. 100 levels. 100 levels, no excuses. 100 levels plus 1, no excuses. 100 levels plus 2, no excuses. Quote. The number pulled up with astonishing speed. All of these messages were posted by pro players, all of whom possessed nimble hands. In just a few seconds, the message already said, 100 levels plus 50, no excuses. No matter how fast Huang Shaoxun could talk, he still couldn't match up to the speed at which the messages were sent. The anger filling up inside of him made him wanna cough blood. The shy little Bei watched, unsure about what to do. I say you should hurry up. Look how much time you're wasting. Zhang Jinji has already left for bed, Yi Shu said. What does that have to do with me? Huang Shaoxun shouted. He needs to go to bed and so does everyone else here. If you won't start, all of us are going to go sleep, Yi Shu continued. Yeah, bedtime, everyone agreed. You people can get lost. Yi Chu, you stay, Huang Shaoxun growled. That's no good. We're all pro players. We have to stand united, Yi Shu didn't need to reply. Everyone had already grabbed Huang Shaoxun's weakness. This guy really wanted to fight Yi Chu's unspecialized character. F***CK. Why am I so unlucky? Huang Shaoxun was helpless. Come. Hurry up. Homeward bound. Ha! I'll send you home crying. Huang Shaoxun started attacking before he even finished his sentence. Little Bei was totally unprepared. This time, Huang Shaoxun was clearly not in a good mood and wasn't polite at all. After a while, Huang Shaoxun felt that the battle mage in front of him was similar to Yi Chu. Both of them were so shameless. Poor little Bei became a sandbag and was given a ferocious beating by Huang Shaoxun to the point that many pro players couldn't bear to watch anymore. Isn't this a bit too harsh? So brutal. Brutal plus 1. Brutal plus 2. Brutal plus 3. Quote. The message soon displayed, brutal plus 50. F***CK. Are you guys done yet? Huang Shaoxun fumed. He started to flood the public chat with his angry messages as he beat up little Bei. Oh no, OT. Your mom's an accident. The pro players cried as the flood of words drowned out their voices. The words on their screens were rapidly scrolling up. Lulan Slash and the others had already turned into stone. Little Bei was a tragic sight to behold, yet Huang Xiaoshan still had the ability to flood the chat. Just how terrifying was his hand speed and his ability to multitask. Room owner. Who's the room owner? Mute the chat. Someone finally remembered the ultimate solution and called out constantly in the channel. The pro players who saw it understood right away and joined him. No matter how amazing Huang Xiaoshan was, there was no way a single person could match the united efforts of so many. Seeing his entire screen filled with demands, Lulan felt his head going dizzy. He didn't dare delay and muted the chat as fast as he could. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, but they soon realized that without the public channel they couldn't discuss anything together. Watching the match by themselves without any discussion was a bit boring. We can continue here, someone suddenly messaged. Oh, yeah. We still have here. The message came from the group chat in QQ. The pro players turned off full screen for the game. This way, they could watch the match and chat simultaneously with no issues at all. On the other hand, Huang Xiaoshan definitely wouldn't be able to switch between chatting and battling at the same time. We should have done this earlier. After a few chats, everyone turned their attention back to the match. This little battle mage isn't that good. It's because Huang Xiaoshan is being too fierce. He's venting out all his anger onto him. Poor guy. That's why he's a brute. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Hey, what are you people talk about? There were a few confused newcomers. We're watching a show. Log into the game, someone directed the newcomers. Consequently, there was another wave of pro players who logged into the game. By the time that second wave found the room, Huang Xiaoshan had already defeated Lulan's group. The pro players finally gathered their thoughts together and stopped horsing around. This was because they saw that Lord Grimm, a character with a class that had never appeared before in the pro scene, had finally entered the ring. At this moment, Lulan and the others finally figured out why so many professional players had decided to gather here. Lulan reopened the public chat and told everyone so. He hoped that he could see the pro players discuss the match here. It's about time. Ready to go to bed? The first one to speak up was Yi Shu. F***CK, I will fight you, Huang Xiaoshan shouted as he unsheathed his sword. Chapter 445 The Real Deal. Getting ready to go to bed was just a joke. If Yi Shu had actually wanted to go to bed, he wouldn't have gone to fight. The match began. Huang Xiaoshan wasn't sure if the guy he was facing would be so shameless as to ignore the rules and immediately leave the match, so he stabbed forward with his blade. He would fight for as long as he could. The public chat had been opened up by Lulan again, but after Yi Shu made the joke, no one followed up with any jeering. Everyone was completely focused on the match. Yi Shu's Lord Grimm jumped in order to dodge and stabbed back. His myriad manifestation umbrella was only the length of a sword, but with a flip, it suddenly changed into a spear. Huang Xiaoshan hadn't done anything yet, but all the spectating pro players sucked in a breath of cold air. They had heard about Lord Grimm's silver weapon. The reports had come from the branch guilds in the 10th server. However, no one there was a worthy opponent for a god, so the information on the silver weapon gave them a general understanding of it, but no one knew exactly how extraordinary it was. The myriad manifestation umbrella's feature was its ability to transform. This unprecedented function attracted everyone's attention. They didn't really care about the actual stats of the silver weapon. What they wanted to know was, how did this weapon transform? How long does it take for the weapon to transform? Was there a cooldown? The guilds had tried to find an answer to these questions, but they couldn't get a precise answer. Today, under the watchful eyes of these pro players, the myriad manifestation umbrella had completed a transformation. Their first reaction to it was fast. The transformation from umbrella to spear happened in the blink of an eye. A weapon suddenly elongating could already be considered as a terrifying skill. Huang Xiaoshan had dodged it, but how many had the reaction speeds and hand speeds like Huang Xiaoshan? If we can't get a good understanding about this weapon, we'll definitely suffer the consequences. Only a short moment had passed and everyone was already thinking this thought. In the match, Huang Xiaoshan had avoided the attack. He had an opportunity to strike back, but he didn't choose to go for it. He was clearly very curious about an unspecialized character and his myriad manifestation umbrella. He wanted to see just what kind of tricks it could pull off, so there was no need to rush. No rush at all. But during the next 2 minutes, all he saw was Lord Grimm use his spear and use the same 5 low-leveled battle mage skills over and over again. There were quite a few times where those 5 skills were all on cooldown. If he didn't transform his weapon, he would just be asking for a beating. However, Huang Shaoshan also stubbornly waited. "Is your toy broken?" Huang Shaoshan couldn't help but ask. The reply came in the form of a falling flower palm. Huang Shaoshan dodged it. "Say something." "Dragon tooth." "Hey hey 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 hey," Huang Shaoshan shouted. "Sky strike." He probably took off his headphones, Huang Shaoshan thought as he grinded his teeth. However, sound was very important to pro players. How loud or how soft a sound was indicated how close or how far the opponent was. This could all be accomplished in glory. The Pro Alliance had prohibited talking partially for this reason. After another minute, Yi Shu was still using his spear. The crowd was getting a bit tired of it. Huang Shaoshan was already at the end of his patience. He clearly didn't want to show his strength for everyone to see. If he was going to show them a battle mage and one that was only using level 20 and under skills at that, then there would be no point in watching anymore. Huang Shaoshan thought as he cursed out loud. Even though he had his suspicions that Yi Shu wasn't wearing his headphones, he also had suspicions that he really was listening, but was just acting as if he wasn't listening to make him give up on his sound attacks. Huang Shaoshan didn't mind. Talking while fighting was a habit of his anyways, so he continued to blabber, while he attacked with his sword. Upward slash. The sword arced in a beautiful half-circle. After several follow-ups, Yi Shu was finally unable to dodge and the sword launched Lord Grimm into the air. If a pro player launched into an opponent the air and didn't follow up, then the pro player should feel ashamed for being called a pro. Huang Shaoshan wouldn't miss an opportunity. His troubling rain shot forward like an arrow and slashed across with his sword as if he were going to directly slice Lord Grimm into 2 halves. Bang! There was no gunfire, but there was the sound of a gunshot. Huang Shaoshan deserved to be called a god. As soon as he heard the sound, he immediately began to dodge. However, without any gunfire, it was hard to distinguish which direction the gunshot was coming from, so Huang Shaoshan could only pray for good luck. Pooh! A spurt of blood flew through the air. In real life, a single gun wound could be fatal, but in the game, the damage didn't matter too much. Huang Shaoshan was a bit sad though because his luck wasn't that good. From where the gunshot had hit, if he had ignored the gunshot, then he might not have been hit by it. His awareness was too good, which actually made it a weakness. The opponent aimed where Huang Shaoshan might have dodged to. Huang Shaoshan moved into the bullet's path and pretty much gifted himself the bullet. On the other hand, Huang Shaoshan was also happy because the myriad manifestation umbrella had finally began to show its abilities. Bang bang, bang bang, bang bang. Rapid gun firing. The myriad manifestation umbrella had transformed into a rifle. The attacks would come in waves of 2 or 3. It wasn't like a revolver or an automatic pistol where they only shot 1 bullet at a time. From the rhythm of the myriad manifestation umbrella's firing, it was clearly a 2-shot rifle. Yi Shu had Lord Grimm shoot, while moving backwards. He was using aerial fire to kite Huang Shaoshan. Aren't you being too naive? In Huang Shaoshan's eyes, this was a kindergarten-level move. Using such a move against a god like him was disrespectful. Huang Shaoshan watched Lord Grimm's movement. He dodged several bullets and then suddenly used a triple slash. In a single breath, Huang Shaoshan completed the triple slash, while dodging bullets at the same time. Afterwards, a sword light flashed out. The low-leveled skill sword draw came out quickly and had a long range too. No expert would give up on such a useful skill. Huang Shaoshan had closed the distance with the triple slash. He had calculated the sword draw so that no matter where the opponent moved, his opponent would be in his attack range would have nowhere to run. Thus, Yi Shu didn't dodge. The smoke and fire from his rifle was still up in the air, when he suddenly pulled out a tachi. He raised the sword up horizontally and guarded against the slash. Right after, he turned his hands over and sent out his own sword draw. Other skills might not matter, but Huang Shaoshan felt that if he were hit by a blade master skill, then he would lose too much face. As soon as he saw Yi Shu come out with a blade master skill, Huang Shaoshan couldn't help but start to focus. Yi Shu had blocked his move with a guard. Huang Shaoshan felt like he should be using more high-end skills. He couldn't use the same level 20 and under skills as this little unspecialized character. As a result, against the sword draw, Huang Shaoshan countered with a rising dragon slash. Troubling Rain was like a firework and he suddenly rose, dodging the sword draw perfectly. Following afterwards, he transitioned from a rising dragon slash into a falling phoenix slash downwards. Lord Grimm was cut into two halves, making the delighted Huang Shaoshan stare dumbly. Shadow clone technique. The experienced god instantly recognized it. However, why hadn't he seen it? It was because when Falling Phoenix Slash came out, the user would turn around. In that short instant, his camera would turn away from the target. During that time, Lord Grimm left a shadow clone for him. Where was his real body then? Huang Shaoshan had a premonition. Without hesitation, he immediately used a falling light blade. Troubling Rain crashed to the ground like a meteor. Not stopping to pause, he rolled forward. Only then did he turn his camera behind him. Sure enough, Lord Grimm had fallen from the air. As he landed, the earth shook around him. A wall of clapping emojis filled the public chat. That truly was a brilliant exchange. Only an experienced god like Yi Shu would be able to grasp the short instant Huang Shaoshan would turn around due to Falling Phoenix Slash, allowing him to use a move without the opponent knowing. And only a nimble god like Huang Shaoshan would be able to realize that something wasn't right and immediately use a falling light blade to avoid Lord Grimm from landing an eagle stamp on his head. Yi Shu's move was something the onlookers saw more clearly than the person on the spot. Huang Shaoshan might not be aware that Yi Shu had used the shadow clone technique the instant he had a blind spot in his camera view. On the other hand, Huang Shaoshan's move was something the person on the spot knew more than the onlookers. This was because even though Huang Shaoshan had made such a decision, in reality, he hadn't known that Lord Grimm was above him. Sure enough, a battle between two gods at the peak was the real deal. The pro players were extremely excited. Boom, there wasn't too much noise, but there had clearly been a small explosion. Where did the explosion come from? Huang Shaoshan was at a loss. The crowd was also at a loss. Only players of the corresponding class were able to recognize the skill. It's a mechanical seeker. Mechanical seeker was only a level 5 mechanic skill. It let out a kamikaze robot, which would move on its own and look for a target. This skill was within the level range for an unspecialized character to learn, but when had he used it? How did the crowd not see it? They would have to study the recording to answer this question. After the mechanical seeker exploded on Troubling Rain, Lord Grimm immediately followed up. The grenade that was thrown out seemed to have been flying in the air before he had even landed. This shouldn't have been a threat, but once the mechanical seeker had found Troubling Rain, everything changed.